So who's not who's not wanting to retire early, right? Um, just a quick sentiment. We are all designed by, I don't know, whoever actually had that idea. We go to school, we find a good job, we'll be good at it, and then by the time we retire, that's when we enjoy life, right? But really, the fact of the matter is, when that time comes, do we still have the strength to enjoy all the hard work that we have put into for what, 50, 60 years? So if there's any way that we can retire early or fast forward, enjoy the hard work that we can, why not go that route, right? Hey, Mitch, I can see you in there. Glad to have you here. All right, so this is what we call the real estate retirement blueprint. This is free for you guys. Make a copy. The link is in the chat box for you. So basically, this is a step-by-step plan for you to have a secure financial future. So this includes an analysis of where your money is. I'm not going to go through everything because there's a lot that we'll be discussing anyway. So basically, this is the first part where you want to understand where you're at right now. In any case, you'll have to understand where you're coming from, the starting point, and then identify the end point, and then we'll figure out how to get there. Even Google, if you ask Google Maps, that's how it is, right? You'll have to have a location first where you're starting, and then the destination. So the income, like, income, expenses, savings rate, where you're at right now, just put it in there, break it down into monthly and then annual. If you guys have some questions while I go through this, just feel free to jump in. And then we also have set ideal targets for you right in there, just so you have a benchmark to follow. If you want to adjust it, take it slow, put it into facing or whatnot, feel free to do so. But at least we have the target in place for you guys to have like a standard benchmark. Okay, and then the assets and liabilities. The definition of asset is something that would, that appreciates over time, that can give you revenue and all that, improves your cash flow and everything. Liabilities, anything that you owe, debt, mortgage, that doesn't really bring any incoming flow over to your bank account. And net worth would be just simply deducting your liabilities into assets. All right, and the second phase of it is your upfront retirement plan rules. We have defined different retirement accounts here that you can start with, traditional IRA, and then how much your contributions are. This is to just give you like an overview of where I'm at right now, and what would be the calculations. And I have a good news for you guys, especially those that are in RI Genius, that we have a calculator that's in beta right now that you can start using. In fact, let me show that real quick for you so you can start using it. So when you go to our website, johnnybynum.com, you can get that under the Learn, and then go to our calculator and see how you can calculate and start, what would be the projected amount for you guys. So let's just say we use this one, and you'll see and get the results right there. What would be the recommended actions? If you need help on that one or any questions on it, just feel free to reach out to us. All right. Okay, so let me go back to our blueprint. So ideal targets also right there for you. And then the early withdrawal penalties, we're going to be talking more about that later. And then what would be the impact, and generally it typically would be at 59.5 plus, income tax. So we'll let you know how it's being calculated. ideal target for, if you don't really need to use it, or if not going to be used for another investment, we highly recommend to only use it for critical needs or whatever. And then we have the required minimum distributions for you. We've also included how you can calculate that. And we have more people coming in. That's great. Okay. And then this is how you can calculate it. If you need help again, just feel free to reach out to us. And then we're going to jump into understanding real estate investing and how you can incorporate that into your retirement, right? I'll give you more reasons why this is the fastest and the most effective way. Okay, so that being said, we'll have to define what would be our retirement goals, right? What is the age you wanted to retire? What would be your expected lifestyle? Like, what would it be in terms of like the expenses that you have or whatnot? It would be good to define it right now so that you can pave the way on how you would actually want to live it by the time you reached it, right? And what would be the income that you need during your retirement, and also what would be your desired net worth. So this is the part where everything is not just, of course, it would be you and your dreams about your family and your loved ones and the legacy that you want to live as well. Okay, and then the next part will be evaluating investment opportunities. This is where we talk about more in depth into how are you going to define your investment criteria. It's not like you saw a house, you want to buy it, and then that's it, right? People make money when you buy. In real estate, it's when you buy, not when you sell. So it's important we define our what we so-called buy box, right? So we'll define that even more later. And of course, we have in there too what would be our investment metrics. How are you going to calculate your return on investment, your cap rate, and why these metrics are important to project what your income would be. Okay. All right. And then, of course, the next part would be if we're going to be buying something, we're going to need some funds, right? Capital. And this is the part where most people would tip and say, oh, I don't have enough savings or whatnot. But we're going to tell you what, there's a lot of ways on how you can buy, even if you're not using your own money. OPM, other people's money. We do have a lot of creative ways to finance deals. We'll just have to find and put all the pieces together and create a win-win situation for everyone. And that includes yourself. So the financial considerations when you're doing this will be the interest rates, the down payments, the different options that you have. Now, the credit score is important too, but not in all cases. There are some scenarios where you can, pass that part and jump into investing. So the loan terms, one of the considerations as well when you're projecting your income and you're planning for your retirement, and then your funding. We'll talk more about it. And then I'm just going to go through it real quick, okay, for you guys. Managing your investment. So when you have purchased a property, fast forward, you have a couple of deals under your portfolio, a couple of units or whatnot. That doesn't end there, okay? It also counts on how you manage your investment to make sure that your properties are in positive, meaning it's cash flowing. You're getting what your desired income is. It can sustain the property and everything. And so that would lead to a good result. So if a property is not managed well, even if you bought it with a reasonable and good deal when you buy it, if it's not managed well, it's going to turn out to be a bad deal. Now, after that, building your portfolio and how you're going to diversify it, what are the different strategies and techniques in terms of how are you going to be mixing it up, right? What are the things that you'll have to look for when you want to diversify. And there's so many different ways in there, property types, different areas. You want to invest in different locations, or you probably want to do different investment stages, long-term rentals, short-term flips, or probably you want to do wholesale, those different things. And then the most important thing after is when you monitor and you adjust your strategy along the way, right? So there's a saying that when you make a decision to become successful, adversities are already waiting at the door for you. It's like it's always been there, even if you haven't made a decision yet. It's been there, like already waving. Like, I'm just waiting for you to come here, right? So it's important that you're ready to make pivot along the way. You learn, you you fall forward, and then you take those lessons to the next one, and then you do the same. You do another. You make it. You become better every time you execute the things. Performance tracking. So how are you going to be tracking your investment portfolio, your rental income, your expenses, values over time? So every time you project what would be, and if there's any changes you have to make, you become proactive of it. It's instead of just, oh, I'm just going to wait until it happens, right? And then the frequency of how you're going to do it, monthly, quarterly, however you want to do it, if you want to do it weekly or whatnot. But yeah, as we scale up, there are different ways on how you can do it. And um, the analysis of the market, how are you going to increase your rent, watching the market, watching the sales in the market, the rents and everything, expense management, and also the property management. And how are you seeing the effectiveness of your um, property management team? Or if you're doing self-management, are there anything that you have to change? And then, of course, your portfolio diversification. So if you're, getting started, how many units you want to have, and then how are you going to diversify? So many different stages and strategies that you can implement along the way. And then your investment performance tracking. In terms of your rental income, and then your portfolio. How many units do I have right now? And then by next year, how many units do I want to have? And then in terms of the market analysis, perhaps this market that I'm in right now is probably on the so-so, and I want to try and test another market. And then adjustment of your strategies, and then your portfolio review. So you do it annually, you do it as needed, and then your quarterly, and so on and so forth. Additional considerations, especially right now in this era, a lot of technology tools that you can use to fasten your execution. So there's a lot of calculators that are out there, a lot of things that you can take advantage of, AI, or people that has been there and done that you can ask questions from, instead of doing it and then making a costly mistake, and then you don't want to jump in anymore, right? Okay, and so the guide summary is simply just defining your goals, evaluating opportunities that are right in front of you, the planning, the financial planning, and then you choosing what the financing option would be fit for you, managing your investment wisely, and then diversifying your portfolio. So your next steps after this one would be just to simply complete this worksheet. You don't have to do it right now, but we highly recommend this is the place to get started. Okay, defining where you're at right now and defining where you want to go. Okay, now I'm going to be handing over this to Johnny so we can define on how we're going to get there. All right, everyone still with me? Everyone still want to get ready to retire?
Let's
Awesome.
go. Great
Hey,
job,
let's
Faye.
go. Let's go, y'all. I'm ready.
I'm ready. I'm ready.
Okay.
What's going on, Henry? What's up, Mitch? I see some faces in there. I see
Yeah.
Henry Sr., Joel, Wendy, Hannah, Michael, Rita, Nakia, Eric, Coach Tanessa. What's going on, everybody? Good morning, good morning, good morning. Super excited today, diving into retirement. Faye is kind of set the bar already in regards to the workbook. We're not going to go through all those things, but it's really to give you all a opportunity to kind of think through some of these areas of financial literacy, a lot of the components of a financial plan. We're going to talk a little bit about that today, that you should have at the top of your mind when you start talking about retirement and how do you get there with building out your personal roadmap to achieve retirement success. So with that, I'm going to bring my screen up here and share these slides. But really today is kind of go through one. We're going to talk about some of the challenges that we all face in retirement today, some of the things that are exacerbating those and that we don't control, but then also some of the solutions that I have found through real estate that kind of augment and help you truly diversify your portfolio while bringing in that additional passive income to help you and to sustain you through retirement. And we're going to talk about some of those things. So with no further ado, let's get rolling on how we can add real estate to our retirement portfolio. And going, first thing, this isn't legal advice. You need to talk to your SEC attorney. You start talking about raising money, doing investments with your financial advisors. But I'm going to give you information that I have personally used to change my life and change my kids' life and change my grandkids' life who aren't even born yet, with the information that we're going to talk about today with just investing and real estate investing in particular, and how you can bring that together to build a bulletproof, recession-proof portfolio going into your retirement. All right, for those who don't know me, Johnny Lynham. I'm a husband, father, lieutenant colonel in the Air Force for another 13 months. Let's go. Eyeing the R word, retirement, coming up next year, October 1st. I'm an investor, started investor. My parents weren't investors, and I kind of figured it out along the way, and a financial planner. Even though I was active duty military, I found time. Actually, I started during my deployment back in 2011 in Afghanistan. Like I really had time working 12-hour days, but I did. Was going to school, and I completed my financial planning coursework with Northwestern University. Started investing in real estate in 2006. Right now, 120 units in my wife and I portfolio, over $14 million for the valuation. And it's just been a blessing, you guys, because I couldn't tell you that I would have been where I am today back in 2006 or back in 2000 when I left home to go to University of Alabama, Roll Tide, to start college, to start ROTC. But I was consistently going forth, was taking information in. And when I found this real estate and saw what it was doing and how it changed other people's lives, I wouldn't let it go. And we've been pressing ever since. Ranked number 5 in 2020, top multifamily buyers in the Panama City market, which was pretty cool. We bought our first unit. It was an 18 unit that year there in Panama City. And of course, Mr. Grant Cardone was number 1 with one of his acquisitions he had on Panama City Beach. Was a great area. Insurance has got a little squirrely the last couple of years, but we love the Panama City, Florida market. Wrote a book in 2021, Millionaire Real Estate Success Strategies, what they forgot to teach you in school. It's no secret. I share my story about how when I joined the military, that my credit was screwed up coming out of college. I had a 4-year degree, electrical engineer, but I didn't have financial literacy. I didn't have a good understanding of credit, about the real estate market, about stocks and bonds, and just overall investing. And it was extremely humbling to have a family member sign on my lease for my first apartment. And I got it together. Less than 12 months later, I bought my first house using my VA loan, and the rest is history. And the founder of REI Genius, which brought all of you here today, my company that focuses on education when it comes to real estate, entrepreneurship, and investing, and helping everyone tap into their internal genius. So with that said, let's get going and start talking about this retirement. So today's session, we're going to talk about challenges, why we need a financial plan. We're going to compare a couple of options. We're going to look at some of the investing strategies that's out there, because guess what? There's a lot of different strategies that we can tap into to get us to our roadmap, or to our final destination. Because you think about it, if you're leaving Atlanta, Georgia, you can get to Los Angeles. There's many ways you can get there. You can get there by bicycle. It's probably going to take you a long time. You can get there by car, or you can go to Atlanta Hartsfield Airport, and you can hop on a plane. You can be there in 5 hours, or you can jump in a fighter jet. It might get there an hour or two faster. So there's different ways and strategies to get you to your final destination, but you have to find out which one is the best one for you in the time frame that you have to operate, because we all have our own different strategies that we're looking at, and our entirely different time frames depending on where we are in our journey on when we want to achieve retirement and financial freedom. We're going to talk about some of the examples of execution, what that looks like, and then an offer for those that want help executing. I know a lot of you were probably going through when you were looking at the worksheet that our workbook that Faye walked you through, but it's really to be totally encompassing, and it can be overwhelming for some. And that's why we're here to kind of help you put the bits and pieces together, because I'll tell you, when I do financial plans for individuals, that is usually 60, 65 pages, a deep dive analysis on you and your spouse, your finances, and recommendations on what you should be doing to get to your ultimate goal. And we're going to talk about some of the things and ways that we can help you accomplish those goals today. So what is wealth? Robert Kiyosaki, for those that don't know, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, that was one of the books that helped change my mindset, and it gave me a whole new transformation when it came to building wealth, trading my time for money, and being a small business owner. It's not how much money you make, but how much money you can keep, how hard it works for you, and how many generations you keep it for. Tell somebody in your room, yourself, you can come out, we're building generational wealth. I know it's a taboo word, but we take it serious over here at REI Genius when we talk about generational wealth. It's not a cliche. It's serious. And that's what we walk in abundance. And when we walk into adversity, we know we are more than conquerors in everything that we're doing, because we are focused on building wealth and being a good steward of the wealth that we've been blessed with. So let's keep going. Today's challenges: the Revenue Act of 1978. If you're not familiar with this act of Congress, you should be, because this is the act of Congress that started us down the path of pushing or putting the onus on us as the W-2 employee, or us as a member of society, to be in charge of our own retirement. This is where corporations started diversifying away from pensions as a retirement model and putting the onus back on the employee to save for their own retirement. This allowed those on Wall Street to start moving stock options into 401ks. 3 years later, in 1981, they started opening this up to W-2 employees, where now they can start putting more of their earned income into 401k, which is the part of the tax code here, or actually this legislation, the 401k portion of it, that talked about and gave them the approval for employees to start contributing into these tax-free plans, tax-deferred plans, to save for retirement. So as we talk about retirement, there's a lot of different variables that we do not control that are applying a lot more pressure to those that are looking to retire. One, we just talked about it. Now the 401k, the Roth IRAs, the health savings accounts, you have the onus is on you to provide for your own retirement. When you go back and look at those legislators that passed the legislation, that wasn't their original intent. The original intent was for this 401k model to augment the pensions, not to replace the pensions. So from the beginning, we're already flawed, and we have a problem here that a lot of people don't understand. And now when you start taking into account longevity, did you know that if you're married right now, that there's a 25% chance that you or your spouse are going to live to the age of 93? When you start talking about the advances in healthcare, every time you turn the TV on, you see some kind of pill that they got out there that it may cause more side effects than what it's actually going to cure. But there's a lot of advancement in medicine that is allowing people to live longer. But guess what? If you retire earlier, guess what? Their money is going to have to live longer. It's going to have to last longer for a long amount of time. And so that presents a challenge. Moving on, your asset allocation. When I start looking into data with Fidelity, guess what they're saying? Retirees, they need to be exposed to stocks for a longer amount of time, because guess what? You need that nest egg to continue to grow as you continue to transverse retirement. So if you're staying around that money, if you retire at 60 and you live to 93, your retirement's got to support you for 33 years. So you need to make sure you know what you're doing. You have a plan. You have a darn good plan, because that money's got to be there. Because the last thing you want to be doing is at 80 years old saying, I ran out of money, and now you're scratching your head. Are you going back in the workforce? What does that even look like? And so that's the thing that we're trying to avoid when we're going through and we're setting these financial plans, whereas that we make sure that we have a strong nest egg that's going to be there when we need it in those years, those out years. Healthcare expenses. We all know expenses are going up, but healthcare is one of the largest costs for us when you look at retirees that they have to, their discretionary income has to go and cover. And so these are just some of the breakout with some of the prescription drug costs. One of my previous neighbors, I was looking at, his Facebook post, and he was sharing that what he was paying for his diabetic medicine. And it actually came out because he got his medicine changed and was trying to give it away because it cost so much. Although his insurance was paying, I think his copay, he was paying like $25, but the actual medicine, if you didn't have insurance, was over $1,200. And unfortunately, there are buyback situations where you can donate medicine as long as it's not refrigerated or viral medicine. And so they wouldn't even take the medicine back. And so he was trying to give it out there, give it to somebody who could potentially need it that was having to pay out of pocket. So healthcare expenses are going to definitely be a rising cost into the future. Inflation. We've heard about this one a lot. This has driven the Federal Reserve's policy over the last couple of years, and a lot of the pain that we're seeing. We just saw recently the jobless rate went up to 4.3%, and it all goes back to inflation and the Fed's battle to rein inflation in. This chart here shows the impact of inflation. Looking at $50,000 today, how does that look over the next 25 years when you take inflation into account? How is the buying power lost? And we see this every day. We see the cost of anything from a pack of hot dogs that's $9, or the price of bread, fuel, when you go to Chick-fil-A and the grocery store, that you see it all around you. But the thing is, the Fed's mandate is to keep inflation around 2%. So that's their goal. A couple of years ago, we were all the way up near 9-10%. They say we're at 3% right now. That's arguable. But their goal is to keep it at 2%. So we're going to say if they hit their goal, they're really successful, we're going to go with 2%. So in 10 years, at 2% inflation a year, you're going to lose 20%. So your $50,000 already, you're losing 20% of that value over the 10 years. That's the goal. That's what the Fed is looking at, hoping and praying. The Fed is praying they're 100% successful. Your $50,000 is going to be worth 20% less in 10 years. Guess what? In 20 years, your money is going to be worth 40% less. So you're looking at it like, hold on, 25 years from now, at 2% inflation, my $50,000 is only worth $30,000. And if inflation spikes or something happens, we have a conflict, a war, they shut down oil in the Middle East, gas spikes to $5 a gallon, we hit 4% inflation for a few years, your $50,000 in 25 years could be somewhere $18,000. This is one of the challenges that we face with inflation as we go through, that we have to fight and conquer as we look toward retirement. So what is a financial plan? Faith kind of walked us through a little bit what that means, what all is included, what things that you should be looking at, but it's a lot. It's a lot. And when you look at it, it's a holistic picture of who you are and what you have built, what you and your spouse have built. And now taking that picture, that snapshot in time, and projecting it out in the future. I love looking at the data when we go through with the Monte Carlo analysis and project out, hey, if you're saving 5% of your check each pay period, what does that look like 20, 30 years from now? If you're putting money back into a savings account or a plan for little Timmy to graduate, what does that look like? Or, one of my favorite strategies, if you bought an investment property when your child was born and you look to pay it off when they turn 18, where you can give that property to them free and clear to help pay for their college or whatever it may be, then what does that projection look like in the future? So it's the thing, it looks at your budget, your capital, your mortgage, your investments, your debt, your cash flow, the risk profile that you have, the stocks you're investing in, the future expenses, security, savings, all that is wrapped up in financial planning. So one thing, it's 5 tenets that kind of, when you look at it, it's a 360-degree view of your finances. You're looking at, so many times we just go through life. Like we go from Monday to Friday, where we're hitting the clock just to get to the weekend, to take the kids to all their AAU sports events. And then we try to recover and rest Sunday afternoons. Then we get back on the grind, get back on the hamster wheel on Mondays. But this is a no kidding, you stop and look, a 360-degree view of everything you have going on and understanding where you are today and where you're going in the future. But I really like with the financial plan, it gives you the confidence to make your next move because you know where you are. Because guess what? You can't change what you don't measure. That's one of the things that we talk about when we talk about program management. If you're not measuring performance, then you can't impact performance. You can't change what you're not measuring. And so this the thing is, when you're measuring where you are right now financially, it gives you the confidence to make the next move. Because guess what? You know, hey, if I go spend $50,000 on this expense, what does that do to me at age 65? How does that change my projections in the future? Or if I go and buy this asset, this house, what does this do? What does this look like 10, 15 years in the future for its passive income, potential future appreciation, and the impact to my net worth? Permission to spend. We talked a little bit about it with that, but it gives you the permission to spend. A lot of times we're gun shy. We don't understand where we are right now in our journey. We don't understand the impact. Hey, can I actually spend some money now? Do I have to live frugal? Can I not go to Starbucks for 20 years just to be able to possibly retire at 65? What does it look like if I kind of meet my goals? Is it all right to live? And I say yes. But a lot of times we don't have that insight to be able to give ourselves permission to spend and to live a little bit. And then also is reassuring perspective amid volatility. And I think that's the thing that you have to know, that understand where you stand today, because there is a lot at play when we start looking at what's going on in the world that we don't control. But we got to be able to look at our perspective, understanding where we are, and get the head nod a lot of times and confirmation that we're doing the right things. And it gives you a reality check, because sometimes the conversation is uncomfortable because you're not where you want to be. And that's okay. Because so many times we go through and ignorance isn't bliss, especially when you start talking about your retirement, because the last thing you want to know is you've been going down the road path. You're leaving Atlanta, and somewhere along the way, you were supposed to get on 2059 to go through Birmingham and head through Memphis to get out to LA. And instead of going on 2059, you got on 75, and now you're in Louisville, Kentucky, and you're headed north towards Toledo, Ohio. That's not where you want to be. And so that's the thing that a lot of times is a reality check, and it gives you a course correction on how you can course correct in order to get back on track to hit that goal. And a lot of times it ends up in costing you to save more with that. And then it uncovers opportunities and risks you might otherwise miss, because guess what? You don't know what you don't know. And being out there and having someone that can be an advocate, that has different experiences, that can have that sounding board. And I think one of the greatest things that we've done, and what I've learned over the last few years, is just the benefit of having a collective group, having a mastermind group, whereas that now you're not making decisions in a vacuum, that you have other entrepreneurs, you have other investors, you have other people right there where you can bounce ideas off of, you can get feedback on, where now you're making informed decisions, just like the corporations that we work for. Guess what? They all have corporate councils, they all have board of directors, and guess what? They're looking for diversity, they're looking for different ideas and expertise before they make decisions, and you should do the same thing. So what's included in the financial plan? We talked a little bit about this, but just kind of top to bottom, all this is completely encompassing income, expenses, debts, assets, liabilities, your tax planning, your budget, your insurance. A lot of people are underinsured, because if you think about it, if you pass away and your income is going away, because guess what? Your employer, they're not going to send any more checks. I'm sorry, if you don't show up, they're not going to send any more checks to your family. I was talking with my mentor, Brother Green. So he's actually he works he's a financial advisor for Edward Jones, and he was telling me this crazy story about a friend of his who was a top executive at a company, and he was asking some financial advice. He was like, he assumed that he had a certain level of expertise, but the thing was that he bought a bad financial product and went through and he bought this annuity, and he passed away within 2 years of buying it, and there was no benefit left for his family for buying that product. But the thing is, like, the importance of insurance and understanding what's going to be the impact if you pass away. What is the income? What is that going to look like to your family? How will they supplement the income that you bring in every day? And if the answer is you don't have assets that's going to continue to pay in and help them stay secure, especially, one of the wake up calls for me is my wife was stay at home with our kids. So if something happened to me, it would be devastating to the income that has been coming into our household. And so insurance is how you mitigate that risk. Having an investment plan, we're going to talk about that, retirement accounts, milestone planning, estate planning, having that trust, having the will, durable power of attorney. Especially if you think about it, something that happened, you and your spouse, my wife and I, we travel a lot. We go abroad. A lot of times we leave the kids with grandma, but Lord forbid if something happened to us. Do we have the documents in place on what we want to see happen? Who's going to step in and take care of our children? How are they going to manage the assets that have been accumulated in a trust, and how does that execute? But if you don't have that plan, guess what? It goes to the court, and the court decide what happens with your children. And that's the last thing that you want to happen. So things like that they're super critical for those that have children with estate planning, and how you want other things to go with health directives. If something happened to you medically, that you got to have those tough conversations. Financial goals, and it fosters at the end of the day open communication between couples, and then between the provider as well too, where you can get feedback on the decisions that you're trying to make. So why is it needed? Ukraine, Russia. This is one that is weird. It's been going on for 3 years. We don't really feel it, but we do a little bit. I see it more so just because I wear the uniform. But for our society, there's not a large impact to it, to what we're doing. But there is, and we'll talk a little bit about it as we go through this next one. So we look at Israel and Hamas, Iran. That one's a little bit more top of mind, because we started talking about the prime minister. He just came and talked to Congress a couple of weeks ago. We have a lot of the protests, especially here in DC. We get the messages not to go downtown certain days. And so Iran is always, who knows how they're going to project their power and what that looks like, especially when you got different entities. They're killing senior leaders in different countries and everything. It turns into a hot mess. And so the thing with that is, how do we show up in these conflicts? So what does America do? Hey, we push arms out, we push, guns and bullets, and we push money. You seen Ukraine. That's a big of the political side of it, that they're lobbying to send billions and billions of dollars. Well, guess what? If you don't have money, how do you send this money that you don't have to fund all these efforts? Now you start talking about, hey, we're just gonna print it. And that's kind of where we see with a lot of the different conflicts, a lot of the different programs that we have in the country, that the deficit right now has continued to grow. And so for those who don't know what the current U.S. debt total is, it's 35 trillion. We just hit 35 trillion this year. I forgot what month it was, but 35 trillion in 2024. And when you think about it, I heard a gentleman that kind of gave this analogy. If you count to a million, just one number per second, it would take you 11 days to get to 1 million. 11 days, if you just count, no sleep, just count straight to get to 1 million. To count to 1 trillion, it would take you 31,000 years. That's how big the debt is. And we got 35 of those. So to kind of put it in perspective. So it's a big problem that we have. When you start talking about Social Security, they're talking about I think it's 2035, that they're going to pull back on actual benefits. I think if the reduction was down like 78%, they're not going to go belly up, but they're going to have to pull back because there's going to be so many people drawing for benefits. And we just said people are living longer, that now they're going to have to pull back the contribution. And so it's sad. I watched a 60-minute special. This lady was just saying she doesn't even have enough money at the end of the month with Social Security and retirement. And she was saying, look, thankfully she lives in a rural area that she can kind of somewhat get by. But the last thing that you want to be doing at 70 years old is eating vegetables out of a can and really just trying to barely get by and survive. That's not what we want to do. We want to take this serious, where we're able to thrive into retirement and live life on our own terms. It goes directly to the mindset, investor mindset. So I came up with the investor mindset when I wrote my book, Millionaire Real Estate Success Strategies, because for me, I had to have a transformation. I had to go from broke Johnny to woke Johnny. And for me, it took me to a whole nother level as I got around other people. I joined mastermind groups. I got in rooms with other millionaires and see how they do business, other business owners, and see the decisions that they're making, having conversations and going through that whole process. I came up with this framework, Millionaire Success Framework, that I applied it to real estate, but it's applicable to life in general. Execution, education, and conviction will get you to where you need to be. So we'll walk through each one of those components of the framework. Conviction, you got to have a strong desire. Like a lot of people, they're like, real estate, man, you're just super passionate about it. Yes, I have a strong desire, because for me, it was like, I can remember going through those situations where getting off the school bus and you see the Alabama power notice hanging on the doorknob. Like, I really didn't know. It was like, okay, cool, the power's off, you know, and kind of like, all right, we're gonna have fun, the house is dark. But you really didn't know. I didn't at that age, at least. And to see those situations, you know, where's that you know, stuff like that's happening where you're trying to make ends meet, and the challenges that you have, that once I got older, I was like, yeah, no, I'm not letting that happen to me. And the last thing, and I tell people, I work every day like they come to turn my lights off tomorrow, because it's that important that my kids don't have to experience that, and that I don't have to experience that again, because it sucks. And so that's that strong desire that pushes you forward through that adversity with setting bigger goals. Whereas that, hey, guess what? I'm gonna 10x everything I'm doing. If I end up at 3, 5x, hey, that's still better than 1x. And so pushing yourself and defining those goals and then going to get them. And that's the thing, that at the end of the day, you got to understand, why are you showing up? Why are you here today? What is your burning why? For me, it's my family. It's for that time freedom. And then being able to be in a position, for me, especially, you know, a lot of the soul searching that I've done the last couple of years as I near retirement from the service is like, okay, what does life look like for me post Air Force? And if for me, it's another form of service. And what we're talking about, the conversations that we're having today, and helping people level up and accomplish their goals, like I've been blessed to accomplish over my years of life. It's like, okay, now helping other people, because this information is out there, but it's not really pushed. You know, we get all the social media in our face, the entertainment in our face, and the things that we should really be focused on, we don't have a lot of it at the forefront of our news cycle and information cycle that we really need to change our life and change the trajectory of where we're going when we start talking about retirement. Education, having a mentor is a game changer. I was sitting back and just kind of thinking through my life where, you know, where I was coming out, talking about 2011, Afghanistan, coming from that deployment, got back from the deployment, like 4 months later, went to Montgomery for training for school for 2 months, and had came in. My first commander, when I was a lieutenant, kind of lost touch. You know, I'm an introvert. You know, he was a really cool guy, Colonel Burst, and looked out for me. And actually, you know, was part of the reason I got to Intel school and got that opportunity. But then was just so happened on a Friday night, while I was in training in Montgomery, I'm still a gym rat, you know, had lost 25 pounds. I was like, hey, it's Friday night. The wife had went to Birmingham or somewhere, visit friends and stuff. So I'm like, hey, I wasn't going home that weekend. So I hit the gym Friday night. Lo and behold, I bump into Colonel Burst. He's in the gym. He was visiting. He was doing a DOD internship with industry, and was coming back talking to a group, our class of senior officers there in Montgomery. We connected. He was like, hey, so what you doing next? I'm like, I'm wrapping up my Intel tour. And he was like, hey, I'm going to make a call, Colonel Stutz. And I'm going to go, and Colonel Stutz retired like the next year. He's like, hey, I'm going to set you up with an interview. Reach out to the colonel. You should go to the NRO. I want you to go there. That'll be a great opportunity. Lo and behold, we made the connection. I interviewed, 2 interviews, got the job, went to that organization, and like being able to come to the DC area, bought another foreclosure with our VA loan. But looking at that mentorship and that opportunity, and now I'm back at that organization again a second time as I wrap up my career, that it all came from mentorship, having a senior leader, somebody that had been through there, that knew where I needed to go as a junior officer, what's the steps that I need to go to, organizations that I need to go work for to get that breadth, to get that experience. So the same thing is on the real estate side, that having that mentor that can guide you to navigate those pitfalls, to set you up for success. Books, podcasts, audio books, live events, meetups, what we're doing right now today is going to be paramount. All of them aren't the same. I try to jam pack and give you guys the information because it's out here, and then we can have a conversation. If you need me to kind of be hands-on and help and want my mentorship to kind of help you execute, then we're definitely here for it. But the education is critical to get to that next level. And all the execution where the rubber meets the road, you got to have the right habits, you got to have the right schedule, and you got to be ready to embrace that adversity that Faye was talking about. Because guess what? If you show me a schedule, you're going to show me what's important to you. I say that again. If you show me your schedule, you show me what's important to you. Whether it's spending time with your spouse, it's doing working your job, taking your kids to practice, being at their games, and all of that, that you got to understand that your schedule dictates your life. And the habits that you have, whether it's underwriting a deal for an hour a week, if it's driving a different way to work where you can ride by and drive for dollars, if it's going to 2 or 3 conferences every year where you can get that professional development, if it's joining an organization where you're getting access to deals, to make investments, all of that is going to lead to 5, 10 years, 20 years down the road to you getting to where you want to be. But if you don't change your habits, then you're not going to change your life. And everything that you have done this far in your life has gotten you here today. But if you want to see something different in the future than the path that you're on right now, then you're going to have to change the habits. You're going to have to change the people that you have around you. You're going to have to change your schedule. And you're going to have to embrace adversity. Because guess what? It's going to suck. There's going to be setbacks to get to that next level. And I wish I could tell you that there's going to be an easy button. But if you look at it, like when a plane takes off, that it uses 20% of its fuel just to try to take off to get to altitude. And once it gets to that altitude, it's smooth sailing from there. But guess what? You got to expend that energy to get off the ground and get going when you start talking about executing your retirement plan and getting there to the next level. So that formula for success, information plus action, and the repetition, the consistency, just keep showing up, is what is going to help you hit your mark and make it to the other side. So what do the wealthy invest in? That's what I always get. People ask, what do you invest in? What's the best thing to invest in? I'm like, well, success leaves clues. That if you go and look, you can see what the wealthy invest in. It's not a secret. They invest in stocks. They invest in real estate. They invest in private equity hedge funds, and they invest in alternative investments. That's it. And going through that process, some other unique things out there, but it's not really that difficult. But the thing is, there's different strategies because everybody can say, oh, yeah, I invest in this stock. I'm following the market. Oh, you watching this, tracking this stock. When lo and behold, that we look at it, the majority of people, stock pickers, they never beat the market. So it's like, okay, you should be using the time to build up some other skill set and just track the market with it. But going into the investment side, when we start looking at stocks, anybody remember what happened August 2nd, 2024? Not too terribly long ago. If you don't, it was just kind of a telltale sign of like the unpredictability of the stock market. That when you look at it and go back to NASDAQ, that it dropped in one day, it dropped 2.43%. So when you look at it that day, it officially had went into recession territory when you start looking at, well, I won't say recession territory, but it had corrected over 10% since its July high, that it had dropped 10% in a little bit over a month time frame. And so when you start looking at it, it just shows that the roller coaster that you have when it comes to stocks and bonds, and that when you really look at it, it's I call it the airplane effect. Whereas that, okay, you got in first class, you got your index funds, that's the S&P 500, that's tracking all those investments. You got your tech stocks, your Apple, those funds that track Apple, Facebook, and kind of the top tier 7 tech companies. But then after that, you got your targeted funds that have like an end date that you're looking to retire that you can invest in. And then you also have like some other different allocations for like energy sectors, oil and gas. You can track different sectors as well too. Then you got your bonds. But at the end of the day, guess what? That you can say first class, then you got your economy plus. You got your exit row, then you got everybody in the back. And then we'll say maybe you can say you got your bonds that's down in the luggage under the plane. But at the end of the same day, when the market starts shifting and things drop back, everybody's on the same plane. And if the plane starts going down, I don't care if you're in first class or you in luggage, underneath the plane, you're still going down. And so that's the thing that we have to look at. How do we diversify? How do we have that parachute, if you will, when the plane's going down, like, hey, I got my real estate parachute, I'm jumping out, and we're going to coast in here. We're going to come in, may have to land 20 miles out from the runway and walk to get there, but I'm not going to be in some crater back here where it's completely behind and I'm completely wiped out the game. And that's where that diversification of your portfolio comes to help you and to ensure that you get there. Because guess what? If you come out with the parachute and you land, somebody can pick you up on the road and you jump in the back of the tailgate in the truck. That's where you look at the down pilot scenario. You just get on the back of the truck and they'll take you to your destination. But if you don't have a parachute, you don't have that diversification on the airplane, when it goes down, and if it goes down in your retirement years, that's a bad place that you want to be when you're dependent on the capital. And we already know Fidelity said that you're going to have to stay exposed to stocks longer because you're living longer to continue to get that growth that we already know normally that when you have a recession and we have a bear market is going to last 4 years from the top where it drops until it recovers to come back up to that high. that is usually around 4 years that they're bear market. And if you're in retirement, do you have 4 years to ride out a 20% reduction and you're still taking your 4% off a year? Probably not. But with that, the great thing is that we have to diversify from the stock market is real estate. And real estate is one of the foundations of wealth building, that Americans have voted real estate as the best long-term investment in a Gallup poll every year since 2014, beating out stocks of mutual funds, gold, and savings accounts of CDs. And we're going to talk about some of those things in comparison here coming up. Here's the data. Best long-term investment, you see that 34% versus 20%, 26% for gold and 18% for stocks and mutual funds for the best long-term investment. And they have it as the safest investment as U.S. housing, followed by savings account and gold. And you see U.S. stocks came in last at 10.4% of the 5 that for the safest investment over the next 10 years. And America's choice of best long-term investment, 41% real estate, stocks 26%. So somebody knows it. The question is, do you know it? And are you executing your portfolio in a manner of what you know? Because knowing isn't the same thing as doing. Because we know a lot of the things that we should do. We know we should get up and go to the gym at least 3-4 times a week, but do we get up and do it? And so that's the thing that we got to look at when we start talking about that action, the habits, the schedules, like we know it. 90% of all millionaires become so through owning real estate. Andrew Carnegie made this statement. I can attest to it. I made my first million in real estate, and I saw so many other people do it. So I'm thinking it's pretty still sure. I'm still seeing this quote go around. But the thing is that real estate allows you the opportunity to buy low, add value, and long-term appreciation and passive income, all are the founder, and the tax deduction, tax depreciation that comes with real estate ownership that allows you to build wealth. And we're going to dive into that today. But how's the wealth divided in the U.S. today? If you kind of look at this data here from the Federal Reserve, you see the top 1% that they had that real estate exposure, a little bit, the dark blue, right there to the right of the $0 line. But then they have a large share of stocks and mutual funds. When you start talking about the top 1%, they get paid in equity. They get paid in stocks, the stocks and bonds, you know, whether it's Wall Street with hedge funds, they own companies and own shares where they can defer taxes. This wealth isn't taxed because it's not earned income, where when most of us work. You look at the top 20%, though, you see, though, the extreme exposure to real estate and how they hold their wealth, with real estate being here and then stocks and bonds, a close follow right there for the top 20% of wealth in that Americans have. And so, of course, you see here the private businesses make up a large of it right here, a large preponderance of their wealth, as well as for the top 20%. So we want to do what the top 20% do, the top 1% do, in order to build wealth, because success leads crews. And so that's what we're going to dive in and kind of talk a bit about now with the rest of the team. We know where we are right now with the challenges that we face, why we need a financial plan. We understand where we're going with the benefits of stocks. Like, you know, there's a benefit there, but there's volatility. We don't control what's going on with the geopolitical atmosphere of the world and happening. So now we know we need to protect our nest egg, but still continue to grow and have a diversified approach where we can hit that retirement milestone that we're looking to achieve. So with that, stocks or real estate, which one is it? And I would say it's both. It's both. That I'm not one of these people that say, oh, you need to quit your job and go into real estate. That's dumb. That's stupid. Don't do that. Don't listen to people that tell you you got to go all in real estate. That should be your full-time job. Then no, you got to have a diversified approach. You got to earn income out here somewhere, and you got to have, you know, exposure to stocks. But at real estate, you got to have a balanced approach that meets your risk profile, because my risk level isn't going to be your risk level, and vice versa. And so you got to make sure that you have a focused and individualized plan for yourself. It's all right to be selfish and focus on yourself right now and figure out what's the best approach for you and your family. So with that, we're going to do a comparison to kind of go through what does real estate kind of look like with $1 million retirement account, having $1 million tacked away when we look at it. So with a multifamily property, and we're going to go through the actual real life scenario of this property to give you guys a really good perspective on it. With income, you get real income plus potential appreciation for multifamily. You got your income that comes in from your retirement account. You got appreciation with the property. that increases significantly over time. Time is your friend with real estate. And traditionally, with the market, 4 to 7% growth is kind of where the average to expect long term. The thing is, when you look at that money, you're taking those 40%, 4% a year distributions, that you still have inflation. We talked about inflation right now is 3%. So if you're getting 4% growth, 3% is inflation is taking that out. And then if you're in a 32% tax bracket, and then you're going to be paying out a third of that. So we'll say another 1%. So 1.2%. So now you're losing 4.2%, but you're only making 4% on your money that year. That's not a good year. Then if you're getting send a CD right now, you can get a CD probably 3 or 4%, but you're still losing because you got inflation and you got to pay taxes on the distribution. It's like, okay, you got to have another plan because inflation is eating away your money. Preserves value through appreciation. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Inflation, we talked about it. I got ahead of myself, but it's going to erode your purchasing power over time. You get deductions for your mortgage interest, property taxes, and depreciation. The big one with multifamily commercial property is the bonus depreciation. We're going to show some numbers that kind of show that. With the $1 million, with the retirement account, 401k, you have the tax deferred growth. Withdrawals will be taxed. And management, it does require active management and property manager, and it requires an astute investor, an informed investor. We're going through a refinance right now, and I tell you, the last 6 months, I've been hands-on, back and forth to Montgomery. I've probably been to Montgomery 3 times, more so than I normally want to do. I haven't been in my other apartment in 2 years. But it's been running. But so there is an active component to passive investments. And then, of course, the retirement account is less involvement, and you can pay somebody to manage that for you. But guess what? Multifamily is a little bit less liquid. Retirement stocks, on the contrast, they're a little bit more liquid. You can get easier access to your funds. Multifamily allows you to diversify. You can diversify against asset classes with stocks and bonds in different companies and different sectors. And your initial investment, it does require upfront investment for purchase and maintenance, but there's different ways, creative financing that you can do where you can get into deals. I've literally gotten into deals. I bought a 24 unit, a 20 unit with zero money out of pocket on apartment buildings that were built in the 90s, 2-story brick apartments. We're not talking about like just busted up in a war zone. There's a lot of creative different opportunities out here, but you're limited by your mindset if you don't know, you don't have the knowledge. Requires a large lump sum or consistent contributions over time. $1 million. $1 million retirement account, it's the slow money. You're limited how much you can put in every year. You got to wait for the market to go up. The market comes down, and then it takes a long period of time. You got to keep putting money in and hoping and praying that these companies, they do a good job. The CEO does a good job. You don't have a Madoff that runs off with it, or you have a company that goes bankrupt all of a sudden with some scandal because you don't have any control. You're just hoping and praying these people do what they do versus, buying an asset that you can control the operations, you can cut expenses, you can increase the income generated by usually with rents, but other ways that we can increase income as well too in order to drive up the value of the property long term. And then, of course, going into the growth, you have potential for long-term growth with the cash flow and appreciation. And your growth depends on your investment strategy and the market performance with your retirement account. So with that, we're going to break down kind of the growth, income, and the potential differences here. So this represents a multifamily property that I bought, my first one actually, in 2020. We bought it for $1,050,000, but we're going to say $1 million. And our initial investment was $210,000. So we're comparing this to $1 million in an IRA right now. So annual rental income is around $180,000 for the rents, what we're collecting on an annual. So it's producing $180,000 in income. So we're taking 4% per year distribution from the retirement account. That's about $40,000. And when you go through and you actually look at the math on where everything is at, that $40,000, when you look at the net annual benefit, it doesn't take into account you paying taxes. So if you're in the 32%, we're going to say you're in the 28% bracket. If you had to pay taxes on that, then now you're actually only going to walk away with 68% of that $40,000. And so when you multiply that by 68%, you're actually only walking away with $27,000 a year. And so think about this. You got $1 million that you saved and put in a retirement account. compared to you just bought a multifamily property, you only put $210,000 down. The bank gave you the other $790,000 that you needed to buy, and you're making $60,000 of income after all your expenses, paying your mortgage and everything. Compared to if you had $1 million that you done saved all these years and saved up, it's only going to give you $27,000 when you walk away and pay taxes on it. And you couldn't even touch this money to invest it in nothing until you were 59 and a half. So right there alone, the leverage and the benefit of real estate from day one, that you can take 20% of your retirement account and pay out and get the cash flow that's like 3x, what you would have with just being able to live off the money. And so, 2x. If you double that, $30,000 times 2 to get $60,000. So that's the thing that you got to realize, just the benefits, the leverage, just off the top. But you're going through annual appreciation, 3%. It's kind of 2 to 3% for annual appreciation with real estate. We're gonna say 5% here for this scenario with the stock market. But it fluctuates, as we know. Might have a good year, might have a bad year. But over 20 years, when we look at the picture, the total net income generated from this $60,000 a year for 20 years is $1.2 million. For the retirement account, $800,000 that you've been able to pull out. And you're still exposed to the market. You're getting that 5% return each year still on the balance. And so the final value after 20 years is $2.6 million for the apartment. And you have roughly around $230,000 left after 20 years of taking the 4% withdrawal from the account and still getting appreciation on what's still left in the account. And so the total earnings, the income and value at the end of the day, $3.8 million versus $1,030,000 total. And so that's the power of real estate right there. And when you kind of look at the next level, we go to taxes. It tells a whole nother story when we talk about the bonus depreciation that comes with owning multifamily. But this here is just, I want to give you a snapshot of just the power and the control with just taking a subset of your retirement account. You can buy an apartment complex that you own and go in through this situation. And I'll tell you that I actually, a few weeks ago, I got an offer for somebody to buy. They wanted to do seller financing. It was kind of creative, but they gave me an offer of $2.4 million for this property that we bought for $1 million back in 2020. The same scenario with that $210,000 down payment. And I'll talk and walk through the deal and show you how in 2 years, we actually got all this money back and some, where we got a distribution of $309,000 tax-free from the bank when we refinanced the property 2 years later. So we pulled all our capital out, the value shot up, and now, the valuation is around $2.2, $2.3 million with it. And it all started with just a $200,000 down payment. But you got to have the knowledge and you got to have the information on how you can go from buying the property, underwriting it, going through that process and managing it to add value to get there. And we're going to talk about that. So with taxes, it's not about what you make. It's about what you can keep. So this kind of showed the depreciation schedule for this apartment complex. So bonus depreciation was 100% during this time. Right now, I think we pushed 24. We dropped to 60% bonus depreciation, and it's phasing out over the next couple of years. But Congress is talking about bringing it back. We'll see, depending on how the economy goes. If it hits really hard, I think they're going to bring it back just to incentivize investors to invest in multifamily. But you see, we put $210,000 down, and we got $186,000 tax write-off the first year. Think about that. You put in $210,000 of earned income, and in the eyes of the IRS, they say your building lost value the first year of $186,000. So you don't have to pay taxes on that first $186,000. Compared to the tax year, when you look at you with the deferment of $6,000 with the money that you have in the bank. And after that first year of bonus depreciation, because all bonus depreciation is, it allows you, instead of depreciating the asset over 27 and a half years, they allow you to pull forward anything that depreciates at 15 years or sooner. You pull all that depreciation to the very first year, and you get to write all that off that first year. And if you don't use all your write-off, guess what? It just carries over to the next year, and it knocks off the income. And so $186,000 the first year, and then after that, it's $27,000 every year after. And you can just see the depreciation, the tax benefit on that schedule there compared to the retirement account. And so now we talked about the real estate side of it. Now, just why is it important to add this to the portfolio? What are the benefits? We talked a little bit about it, but I still want to make sure that I kind of blatantly say it, that it's obvious on what's the significant impact with this helping you to perform in a way where you find success with your portfolio going forward. The thing is on why real estate, and I love it, that when you look at where we are right now, that existing single family home sales, that we're low, that we're around 1 million for the home sales. When you look at traditionally where the average was all the way back to the 80s, that we're well below the amount of single family homes that we need in regards to where we are in society. So there's not a lot of people buying. And guess what? If people aren't buying, they're going to be renting. And then for us looking at the income that's needed to buy, this is kind of shows why people aren't buying houses. That if you look at historically, when you look at the household income and when it's mapped to the actual income that's needed to buy at the current house price, that right now in America, you need almost $120,000 of household income in order to afford to buy a house. But guess what? Household income is still right there hovering a little bit north of $80,000. So you're talking about a $40,000 delta in regards to income that's needed to buy a home versus what people actually bring home every day. And so that's where we are right now. And that varies by market. And that's one of the reasons why I'm extremely bullish on Alabama and the upper panhandle of Florida up until all the insurance fiascos with dealing with insurance costs. But because it's affordability, that right now people are looking for affordability. They're fleeing California, they're fleeing New York City, and they're moving down south where real estate is still cheap. You can telework. You can work remote from home, and now you can afford to live comfortable on maybe a smaller, area, town, city where it's not the extreme hustle and bustle. You don't have to commute every day. But now these areas where affordability is king right now, whereas that people are looking at the bottom line when they're investing. And so now when we look at the areas that we invest in, we can still achieve cash flow with the passive income investing in the Alabamas, the Floridas, the Georgias, and South Carolina, North Carolina, and Texas as well too. And so these metrics aren't changing that drastically that fast every time. And this is the one I love to see as a real estate investor is right now the existing housing units relative to the population demand in the U.S. So they looked at census data, looked at millennials, where they are kind of going into their 30s, their household forming ages of getting married, finding a home, and looking at the building over the same time frame of these household formations. And when we look at when '08 hit and builders completely stopped working and stopped building homes, and yet people still continue to grow and graduate from college and getting married and they're following the jobs. And guess what? We're short right here by their estimate. I got this from Axios, AXIOS, a data aggregator. But in the estimates, I've seen anywhere from 2 million to 4 or 5 million for the number on how many homes we're short right now for new construction and inventory. And it's no way that we're going to be able to add that much inventory to meet the demand. And so we're going to be in this position for a while, especially, as we come out of where we are right now with the high interest rates. And we see areas like Austin, Texas, San Antonio, Nashville, we have a lot of inventory that now, as this inventory was absorbed, not all construction, but a lot of construction has stopped. And so it's 26 going into 27 that we're going to see rents start going right back up again because we aren't building to meet this demand, and more people are looking to get into housing and a home and home ownership to achieve the American dream. And that's where we come in because more and more people, they're choosing just to rent now. And there's not enough rentals in most areas. And when we start talking about affordable housing, that most of the wait list for Section 8 housing in most metro areas, there's a long backlog and wait list of people looking for affordable housing that the government wants to pay for their rent. And I think it was just earlier this week, the vice president talked a little bit about her initiatives that she's proposing to kind of get in and tackle affordable housing. And so it's a big need, and something's going to have to shake, and they're going to have to incentivize investors because the federal government doesn't want to be in the business of providing housing. And, we start looking at like the inner city, New York City, like with how they set up and built the projects and all different things in those areas, they want to get away from that. And now they just want to incentivize, whether it's through taxes, reduction of taxable income, incentives to build with favorable loans, that incentivize investors to provide the housing that they need for people. So we're going to see what changes there. But with this, when we buy right, we get increased cash flow, the higher income potential, rents tend to go up. When we bought that property in 2020, we were projecting rents at $850. I think we just got one this week for $1,050. Rent's going up $200 more than where we underwrote. And I'm a nice landlord that I'm still $150 behind where the market is, what they're charging for 2-1 apartment buildings. And so it's insane where rents are today. But, you have to keep your rents going because guess what? Insurance has doubled since then, and you have increased taxes, and everybody's the plumber, electrician, everybody's charging more. Inflation, and we got to get it reined in. And so it forces rents to go up over time. And that inherently pushes up your value because now you're producing more income with that asset. And so now it's worth more because guess what? Inflation, real estate is a great hedge against inflation. And so here you see the example here with single family versus multifamily. The more units, less risk because now you're not beholden to a single individual. If you have a vacancy, you can lose a lot of your income. If you got more units, you can absorb those changes and you're able to create more income faster. Equity growth, that 5% annual appreciation over 5 years, that's $280,000 for doing nothing, for just waking up. You're making money in your sleep and going through that process. And so appreciation is your friend. We don't buy for appreciation. We buy for cash flow, and appreciation is just the icing on top of the cake with that because it can fluctuate. It can change. But, it's usually going to be there, but we're not banking on it. Diversification, you can mitigate your risk. You can diversify within asset classes. You can single families and multifamilies in a Florida area, West Coast or Texas area, and you can get something on the East Coast. And so you're geographically diversified as well too. And when you start looking at it, like you can have your stocks and bonds diversified in real estate, different real estate classes. You can get into some of the alternative investments like investing in real estate funds where you're completely like syndications, where you're completely passive, but you're able to have ownership and participate in the long-term growth, over the 3 to 5 year period of turning over large apartment complexes where you can pick up equity that way. So there's a lot of ways that you can mitigate your risk and diversify your portfolio through real estate. And it gives you that stability through multiple income streams and that consistent cash flow and that economic resilience. That, as you're going through in certain areas that, you may have some people that can't pay rent, but, there's ways you can mitigate that. You can partner with the government with Section 8. Now your rent's guaranteed. And so there's different ways that you can augment that where you limit your risk across the board. But guess what? Those checks still coming out. And Warren Buffett said it best that, you're going to work until you die, until you figure out how you can make money in your sleep. If you don't figure out that secret of how you can make money in your sleep, whether it's a business, whether it's real estate, or whether it's dividends from your stock portfolio, you got to figure out some kind of way to get income working. And having your money work for you harder than you're working for it is how you kind of make that balance over time. Where you start off in your younger years, you're working a lot, but now as you learn how to make your money work, you can pull back and get more of your time back, and you don't have to work as hard because your money is out there working hard for you. Case study. So this is Sarah Johnson kind of looked out in the Midwest, and we're going to focus on what a real estate portfolio can look like. So she started her journey 2015, bought her first property, $150K. It was bringing in $1,200 a month rent. And her initial goal was just kind of have a small portfolio, supplementary income, nothing too crazy, drastic. When trying to kind of go guru status and, and just build up a Donald Trump portfolio or Grant Cardone. So year 1 and 2, it was kind of, she just wanted to get that first property, did some learning, make an assessment of kind of figuring out what area she liked, didn't invest in her backyard, but want to kind of see, hey, where's the good area? Where's a lot of jobs coming? Where's the population growth projecting to be at? Where are jobs moving to? It's like, hey, I want to invest in that area because you need people to rent there. You probably want to invest where jobs are going. So monthly rent, $1,200, 2017. So year 3, 4, hey, she's like, hey, I like this. This works. Let's take it to the next level. So she picked up 3 more properties, a little bit more. The market's going up, so $175K a piece. But hey, guess what? Rent's going up, $1,300 per property. 2018, she got a duplex for $250,000. Each unit rent $1,200. So now $1,200 plus 3 times $1,300, and the duplex at $1,200 for each unit. She's bringing in $7,500 a month of passive income. diversification and growth. So like, okay, I got this. Let's look at how can we take this to the next level. Say next level, because we want to go to that next level. 2019, at a small apartment complex, 8 units for 600,000. 600,000. Each unit is rented for $900 a month. I'm telling you guys, I know for my people in the DC area, there are places you can buy 8 units for 600,000. I was just looking at a 4 unit for 150,000. That I'm looking at. I can't get in touch with the broker; they're not responding. But there's deals out here, and people need quality housing. 2020 purchased 2 commercial properties for a total of $500K, each leased to a business owner. Combined rent $4,000. So in 5 to 7 years, total income generated $16,400. And when you look at it, like there's opportunities to build wealth through real estate. Initial investment started off $150K. This takes into account no debt, but you can get debt and leverage with these things where you're putting when you look at the total investment year 7, this was 1.6 million that she invested. That's bringing in 16,400. Now we just talked about in the future, in the past scenario with $1 million portfolio, you weren't making but $27,200 after you paid the taxes on that 40,000, that 4% withdrawal for the year, 40K, and you had to pay taxes at 28%. It left you with $27,200 for the whole entire year. And she's invested 1.6 million and making $16,400 a month. So we're talking 27K a year times versus 16,400 times 12. That's $196,000. $196,000 that she's bringing in passive income by investing 1.5 million. And so it's night and day difference when you start looking at, you got to have some exposure of your retirement plan. You got to have some exposure to real estate, because that passive income that comes with it, the leverage that you're able to do, and the long-term appreciate, the hedge against inflation. Inflation is going to kill your portfolio. It's no secret. Inflation's not going anywhere. 10 years from now, 20 years from now, the price of real estate is not going back, because we can't build it fast enough unless we have some drastic where everybody starts buying tiny home connexes that they're putting on lots that is not changing. And so that's the thing we got to figure out, like, how do we get the right exposure? What's the right exposure for you to bring into your portfolio to make a difference? Property values increased over time. Now her portfolio, she's invested 1.6 million. Guess what? Over time, that same period is worth 2.5 million now. And it provides stability, reduced risk, and some great passive income. Reinvestment strategies. As you go through, you look at reinvesting rental income, savings into new properties. As you get equity that builds up in one property, it doesn't perform well, you can sell it, reinvest it into apartment. Our strategy, and I'll talk about it a little bit, we were flipping homes in Panama City and keeping a couple as rental, but after we got our first apartment and I saw the impact of taxes, the passive income, I was like, hey, we're flipping everything on the single family side and just buying our next apartment, because it makes sense. It's the right thing to do for the strategy. Diversification, property types and locations, and then long-term vision, having the patience and the strategic planning. You gotta have a plan. You don't have a plan. If you don't have a good plan and the right plan, you're gonna fail. Because you can have a plan and it could be a bad plan, and you're still gonna fail. But you gotta have the right plan and have the right setup to be successful. And guess what? And you can achieve it and go and implement. So we're gonna talk about the investment strategy. Fix and flip. I'll talk a little bit about that. That's one of the strategies where you could buy low, repair it, resell it, take the profit, reinvest it. That's how I won't say that's how I got started. I got started using my VA loan. For my veterans in the room, I got started with my VA loan. No money down, 100% financing. Bought my first place. When I moved to my next duty station, I bought a HUD foreclosure in 2011 using my VA loan. Did it again when I moved to the DC area. I had a little bit more entitlement left. Bought another HUD foreclosure there in 2013. Moved to Panama City, used the FHA, bought another foreclosure, used the FHA loan vehicle there in 2017. And then we moved here in 2020, the house we had bought in 2013, we moved it from VA loan to conventional, and we used the jumbo VA loan to buy a bank foreclosure that I'm living in right now. And along the way, we started getting into the fix and flips in 2015. We did our first fix and flip, and I'll talk a little bit about that. Going through and then just one house at a time and building up and eventually into apartment complexes, and the rest is history. But fix and flip is a great one. Just take it, fix it up, add value, and then sell it. Wholesaling is finding the deals, but instead of buying it, renovating it, or keeping it as a rental, you invest it. You not invest it. You give the investment or sell the investment to another investor, and you get a profit. And so you negotiate a really good deal, and then you make the spread. So if you buy a home, you get it under contract for 100,000, and you know you can sell it for 115,000 to an investor, and they still can make money to be a good deal. You get to keep the $15,000 for making the transaction happen. This is one is getting a lot of publicity because you'll have wholesalers that get stuff under contract and then they don't come through, they don't sell the property, or they mislead the owner. And yeah, so a lot of companies, South Carolina is the most recent one, but a lot of states are banning wholesaling. They want you to be a realtor if you're engaging with putting a property under contract. So that's something to look at in your area. Maybe an option. House hacking is when you live in a property and you maybe rent out a room on Airbnb, rent out your basement, rent out your garage. I met somebody at the military influencer conference. Shout out for all my military veterans. We just got locked in this week. We're gonna be at the military influencer conference in Atlanta, September 30th through October 3rd. And I met somebody at last year's event in Las Vegas. Why I'm saying this because she was house hacking, but she was house hacking her pool. She rented her pool out in San Diego, made $14,000 by just renting out her pool over the year. And so that's cool. But house hacking is just being able to generate income, whether it's a multi-unit, a duplex, triplex, or fourplex, and you rent out units, rent out your basement, a room, or your pool to generate income and offset your expenses. Live-in rent, this one where you actually you live in the property, then you rent it out. For my military members, this is a big one. You get in, use your VA loan, no money out of pocket, live in it 30 years, get your orders, go to your next duty station, then you just keep it as a rental property after you go. Live in flip. So you buy the house. This is what we did in 2017. You buy it, renovate it, then you get long-term debt on it, and then you can sell it. Eventually, you don't have to sell it. You can rent it out for a couple of years, then sell it. But you know, the IRS rules, you lived in it, so now you don't have to pay taxes on that profit because it was a primary residence. Versus having to be completely taxable as ordinary income when you flip the house if you owned it for less than a year. The BRRRR strategy is a really great strategy. Instead of flipping the house, you buy it, you remodel it, you rent it out, you refinance it to long-term debt. You're bringing in the passive income, then you get all the majority of your money out, or you may leave a little bit of money in, but you repeat and you do it. So, but if you're like, okay, if I end up leaving $5,000 in the house that I couldn't get all my money out, I left $5,000 in, but I'm getting $400 a month cash flow. Okay, I get all my money back essentially in year one, and after that, it's on to the next one. So that's a great investment. You can get 100% return on your money in 1 year when you do it. Yeah. So this is a great strategy. We're getting in properties, and when you refinance it, you're still going to have 20%, 25% of equity left in it, plus the cash flow you're getting every month. Short-term buy and hold rental. So Airbnb, where you rent out by the day instead of doing like a 12-year lease. Plenty of options there. A lot of the laws are changing with this drove up a lot of prices in a lot of areas over the last couple of years because so many people were buying properties and they could pay over the asking price because they knew they could rent on short-term rental Airbnb and make a lot of money. And so this drove up a lot of prices, and it took out a lot of inventory for a lot of normally would be long-term homeowners because people were buying it as a business, just buying these properties and renting them out for short-term rental. So a lot of changes with laws in different areas. So you want to make sure you want to see where your laws, where the city council, where they're leaning in your area before you jump in on that one. Long-term buy and hold, traditional rentals, you buy just long-term, you're going to get that rental income, the tax breaks for depreciation. The residents are going to pay down your mortgage every month, and your real estate is going to be worth more down the road as the longer you hold, the more time goes by because of inflation. Rental debt snowball. So you get multiple rentals, then you're always focusing on taking all your cash flow and paying off the one with the lowest balance or the highest rate. It depends on your philosophy. You can focus on the one with the higher interest rate, but a lot of people say you focus on the one that has the lowest balance so you can build up momentum and get success faster. So you pay the one with the lowest balance, and then all the income coming from that one that doesn't have a mortgage, you start putting it towards the next one with the lowest balance and keep going and build it up that way. And you're building up equity every month. Straight up plan. So when you sell it, instead of paying taxes, you use the 1031 exchange. You have it goes into escrow. You have a custodian that holds the money. You find I think you find up to 5 properties within 90 days, or actually maybe 45 days. And then after that, you have 90 days to close on one of those properties. I think so. So some rules and regulations that go with that, and time periods that you have to adhere to with that. What does execution look like? I'm telling you guys, I'm gonna say it again. One deal can change your life 100%. It's not just about the property. Like, you go through the process, like the experience that you get doing a deal, like you can't even put a number on it. Like, because I'll tell you, like this first deal that we did, like I still take what I learned from that in every project that I do. And every project every deal is different, every house is different. And you're just continue to get smarter and smarter as you go through the process. But you got to start. It starts with one deal. You only need one deal. You got to start with that first one and just building. You get in these having conversations with people, and who knows where you're going to be 5 years from now, 10 years from now, but you got to get started. And it goes, and you can change your life with real estate 100%. 8100 Kid Street. I remember it like it was yesterday. I can see my wife's truck parked right there in the driveway. And so this was 2015 in the DC area. This was Alexandria, Virginia, close to Fort Belvoir. Go Army. And it was an auction property. And we took a leap of faith. We used our realtor who helped us get our HUD foreclosure that we bought back in 2013. And for me, this time for me was doing really, really well. Was in Afghanistan 2011, doing the intel thing, operations. Came back, talked about how I met the Colonel Burst, and I interviewed with Colonel Stutz, got the job in NRO. So we're in the DMV in the DC area, working there, crushing it. I had a $1.3 billion software development contract. Had a great team of contractors that we were executing with that, and just was at the pinnacle, that was one of the best times of my career after Afghanistan and being deployed. But then being there in that environment where you had a large amount of money, we were executing $120 million a year, and you were empowered. Nobody was micromanaging. They were like, hey, go forth. We need this stuff developed. We need these updates. Go and do it. And it was a great time. And we had made the decision when we had our first child in 2013 that, my wife was going to stay home. That was really important to us to kind of not have to go do the daycare thing. And it was, of course, a sacrifice for his income. So I'm like, okay, I'm working hard. I'm doing these things. But, I was still at home 5 o'clock. There was still a lot of things, a lot of time, opportunity. And I'm like, you know what? We got a couple rental properties. I see the power of real estate. We picked up a couple. $25,000 house in Birmingham. I was like, man, let's go ahead. We can start flipping these houses like you do on HGTV. I'm like, I'm managing $1 billion software development contract with contractors. I'm like, I can manage $100,000 renovation with normal contractors. And we took the leap of faith. And so 8100 Kid Street was that deal. And lo and behold, we dove in. We had to renovate the pool. We had to go through, had black mold, had to completely take the kitchen, everything down to the studs. And it was a lesson learned. And I got so many no's when it came to finding a lender that would lend us the money after we went under contract. I had to find a lender. I got a lot of no's, and finally had one private lender that was local in the DC area. Lesson learned. And he walked the property. He agreed to give us the money, and we bought it. But I didn't realize with the 10%, it was a simple interest. Whether we held the money for 2 days or 364 days, he got 10% return on his money. So he made $23,000 on that deal, regardless if we held the money for 2 days or for, up until a year. And we sold in like 6 months after the project. But lo and behold, it's like, okay, you got to look at the financing term. You got to understand how the interest is calculated going forward with that. But it was a great deal. And I tell people, it's like, yeah, we made $15,000 on that deal. He made $23,000, but I would do it 100% every time, just because that was the only capital that we could get to get the deal done. Everybody else told us no. It was like, you want experience? Like, well, how do you get experience if I can't do my first deal? Help me here. And so, and the Lord worked it out, and it all came together. And then lo and behold, we kind of went through, and I formulated, because I'm big on frameworks and process. And we ended up with the find, fund, fix, finish. Just go through, find the right properties, secure the financing, lead the renovation, and then execute your strategy. Whether you're going to keep it, you're going to refinance it, or you're going to flip it and sell it. or do a 1031 or whatever it is, and then just execute and then just continue to repeat that cycle. And this is what we teach with the Millionaire's Blueprint with my process here when it comes to real estate investing. And then lo and behold, that first deal led to dozens on top of dozens of other single family deals from Alabama, Montgomery, Mobile. We just sold our first flip in Huntsville earlier this week, Panama City, Florida, Warner Robins, Georgia, up in the DC area. And so just been blessed to be able to do this. And we do this virtually. Like the Huntsville house we sold this week, I never stepped foot in it, never saw it in person, never walked it, but it's the systems, processes, putting it in place and having phenomenal people on your team. I can't say, like, people look at me and they see me as the forefront of everything that we're building, but it's the team, y'all. It is the team. It's always been the team that the mission gets accomplished, but it's always at the sacrifices and the hard work of the people behind the mission and the team. And so I would be remiss if I didn't really footstep the team, from my wife, Faye, our contractors, Lamus, that leads everything with Panama City, and they lead a lot of the stuff in Alabama as well too for us. And it just all comes together at the end of the day. But after doing all those single family deals, it was something that I found. And it was a much faster way to get there, to scale up. And we talked about it when we compared multifamily asset to that $1 million portfolio. And that was that deal. And so this is actually that deal that we talked about, that $1 million property that we bought for $1,050,000. Lenawee Apartments, Panama City, Florida. We still own it. Phenomenal property, doing great in the area. We bought this property in 2019. Excuse me, in 2020. But leading up to it, we had started, after the hurricane. I got back from my second deployment in Kuwait, got back 30 days later. Hurricane Michael hit October 2018, and it was devastated the Panama City area. Overnight, we had thousands of dilapidated houses. We were displaced for 6 months out of our home, jumping around Airbnbs on the beach. We moved to Destin actually for 2 months, and then moved to Panama City Beach so I could start back working. We had to build a base back. My son Jace was born 5 days after the hurricane in Mobile, so we evacuated while she was due to give birth there in Panama City, but we got the records and everything, got in the car, evacuated, left the area, went to Mobile. He was born, and with that, we got back in our house March of 2019, and had 3 houses under contract, and then May 1st in PT, I tore my ACL playing basketball with my guys. In PT, had surgery at the end of May. And so at that point, I had got really big on professional development, had did a couple conferences. And so after I got off my crutches late summer, I found this multifamily conference in Orlando in October. And I was like, my sister lives there. I'm like, it's a no-brainer. Let's go down, take the kids, and I can go do some real estate stuff and geek out. And went to that event. It changed my life. That I met people that were doing deals, ordinary people working in W-2 that had been investing in apartment deals, had nowhere near the experience of me on the single family side, because I had this limited belief that, like, you got to have $1 million in the bank, you got to have tons of capital to get deals done, and that was not the truth. And so fast forward, got back 45 days later, I found this property on the market when I was getting ready for our duplex to get appraised, and it was on a commercial lot. And I looked on the real estate website for the National Association of Realtors in our area just to see what the lot behind us was listed for. And lo and behold, I saw this apartment complex was listed for $1.35 million. Had been out there over 90 days. Talked to the broker. 2 couples owned it. They were business owners in town. Contract that ran off with money from the insurance claim, from the storm damage. And long story short, March of 2020, we got under contract. Like 2 weeks later, the whole country shut down with COVID. We closed in June, and we put the deal together. And, going through due diligence, we had the inspection. We already knew there was some water main damage. They had to spend like $31,000 to repair the water main and redo that work, as well as we came in above appraisal. It appraised for $1.2 million as is, and we got it for $1,050,000. So we had equity from day one. Our local credit union gave us an 80% LTV loan, put 20% down. I brought over 10% down to the down payment. And I ended up partnering with one of the guys in my mastermind group and a college buddy, and raised $95,000. So we brought it to the deal. We gave him a 7% return on money, a 2-year note with the possibility for a 1-year extension, and a share of $20,000 of the equity. And so I ended up I owned 77% of the complex. My one partner, he put in 40K and he raised 35,000. He got 18% ownership, and then my college buddy, I gave him 5%. He put in 20K. And that's how we own it. I self-managed the first 6 months before we left Panama City to come back up to the DC area. Quick hack that I learned from talking to the old heads at Big Mama in the Bayou, the breakfast spot that all the old landlords go and hang out on Tuesday mornings. Local lawyer was telling me that he was buying these properties with hurricane damage, that he was using this assignment of benefits where he could take over the insurance claim when he buys the property and get more money if there's money left over from the insurance companies. And so I took that strategy into this. I was like, hey, it's a one-page document. The attorney drew it up. We're like, hey, yep, assign our benefits. You don't need it anymore. And we got $51,000 from the insurance company. It took us a year to get the money, but we took that money, renovated the 4 units that were down to the studs. Even through COVID, collection was really good. And we got $186,000 depreciation the first year. We talked about that already. And it cost us like $70,000 to remodel those 4 units and put that deal together. And I tell y'all, those are my 2 kids back when they were young, little ones. But that's what it's all about, is the family and being able to teach and build as well, but being able to hand it over to them to be good stewards of. And so that's how the cost segregation breaks out. I talk about that 15-year property, 5-year property, where all that's pulled forward to that first year, where you can get that cost depreciation for the property. Then that remaining $779,000 is phased out over 27 and a half years with that. And the refinance, we refinanced this property, bought it $1,050,000. They came back 2 years later, y'all. If you talk about inflation and appreciation, the value had shot up to $1.76 million in only 2 years. They gave us a 70% loan to value. We were able to pull out $309,000 tax-free because it's backed by a loan. It's not income that is not taxable. So we pulled out $309,000 income that was not taxable from the bank. And guess what? And we're making about $5,000 with the new loan per month, and it's going up with the new rents over the last year. That we're going to be really close to. I think another year we'll probably be up to around $6,000 cash flow with that. But taking that capital and moving in is like, okay, what do you do with it? You go buy another deal. And so October 22, bought a 40 unit in Montgomery, Alabama. $48,000. We're in the process right now of refinancing this one, so I'm going to share more of that with the community as we go forward and kind of implement that. But we bought a 40 unit, bought a 12 unit there right down the street from another owner, and then after buying that 12 unit, that owner said, "Hey, I got these other units that I can sell as well too," and so he owner financed his 24 unit that he had as well as his 20 unit. So a total of 96 units there in Montgomery, Alabama. And Ray been going through the process. We've been through we fired 2 property managers. The one that we have now, we got October last year. They've been phenomenal. Great. We just hit 90% occupancy across the 84 units. Still, we had vandalism that we had on the 12 unit that we still working through with building that back up with the HVACs and electrical for the 12 unit, but going through the refinance for the 84 units there. And it's been a phenomenal process, no doubt, and journey. And the thing with multifamily, and we talk about how you can increase the income, that when you start talking about the cap rate and you look at $100 increase across 96 units, $100 increase in rent across 96 units at a 7% capitalization rate, you just added $1.65 million in value. And when you look at $200, you added $3.29 million. And at $300, when you say if you bought an asset that was rented for $600, you put $7,000 into a unit to improve it, and now you can rent it for $900. You've added $4.94 million of value across those units. And so that's why I say it was like, if you go buy a 20 unit, that it can change your life. You can get an extra $5,000, $6,000. And some of you get in a position where you can do more. But guess what? You got to go out there. You got to understand what's going on. You got to get educated. You got to look at the area and start finding the deals, building your network or doing your own marketing and get there. But it's definitely doable. And that's the thing. Everybody's journey in real estate is going to be different. We all have different goals, challenges, and opportunities. We're in different phases of life right now and go through that process. But but it's different ways, different story. For looking at how you can start with 3 rental properties, then start buying 2 multifamily units, buy some mix for properties, and then get 20, in 3 years, you can get 20 units under your belt. And just continue to maintain. You may get one property and like, hey, I'm gonna buy this property, my brother-in-law, we're gonna do this, or I'm gonna partner with somebody from work or my fraternity, my church, or whatever it may be, and come together and do a joint venture on a larger apartment deal, or you may just focus on single family. But there's different options. And so you can see here how somebody goes in and just you transition, you continue to grow over time. Or like in this instance here with James, where he started out, he was owning 10 units, one made some renovations, did a cash out refinance, then went and bought 3 more properties, then grows to 18 properties from the 15, and then started giving back, started mentoring, and just continue to build relationships and growing. Or Emily started with 0 units, buys the first property, a duplex, then buys 2 more properties, then expands to 10 units, continue to grow, learn about property management, then eventually gets to 15 units over 4 years. And so all this is different. You can figure out what it is, but who knows until you get started where you're going to actually go. And I think the biggest thing, like for me, is like I got started 2020 in apartments, but it's like what if I had known about this in 2010? Lord have mercy. Where would I be? And the same thing goes for us, for you. But we can't cry over spilled milk. Hindsight is 2020. The only thing that we have today is to go to the next level, keep moving. And education without execution is plain entertainment. That's facts. You got to take and execute on the information that you got. And the big thing that I know you're kind of asking yourself is, can you do this too? And I would tell you unequivocally the answer is yes. My guy Joseph, he's active duty Navy, a recruiter. He's closed on Airbnb deals up in Indianapolis, as well as implemented the BRRRR strategy with Airbnb, and it went from the fix and flip to renting it out, refinancing it. And with his second deal that he had no money in, that the guy that stayed 2 houses down for him ended up coming in being a passive investor and gave him his down payment money. Or for instance, Chandria Poole's a great testimony with her unique, and I won't play the video here, her unique story with being able to leverage her self-directed IRA while having former corporate employer retirement accounts and moving that capital into a self-directed IRA where you control the investment that you invest in, and buying land and buying a duplex. Because guess what? There's actually, you can use all your proceeds to buy these assets, but also there's banks that will lend money to your retirement account for you to buy assets where you just pay the down payment from your IRA, and then they'll give you a loan for the 70%, the remaining 80% of that investment. So she's been crushing it in the Atlanta market, and with buying duplexes, buying raw land for new construction, and all using her through her self-directed IRA. Henry Scott, shout out to Henry with this one, a fix and flip property, but he's working through multiple deals in the Augusta, Georgia market. Full-time IT professional, active reserve in the Army, and nearing retirement, but leveraging real estate for his retirement plan. And one of the big ones with him most recently going through our Millionaire Blueprint, but raising capital was something that we help clients with as well too. We're raising $90,000 for 2 deals that are going to bring in well over $160,000, $170,000 in profit, but being able to raise money and give people an opportunity to take their money out of the bait, out of CDs, from under the mattress that's being crushed by 3% inflation, by taxes, to be able to invest in opportunities where they can get a 10, 12% return on their money that's backed by real estate. And so it's a win-win opportunity that you're able to create with these different investment vehicles. And so, Jahil, and I think this is a great one, Jahil and his wife, they just closed on a 4-unit property in the Chattanooga market using their VA loan, no money out of pocket for this deal. Built in 2023, 3-2 granite countertops throughout, 1-car garage for all 40 units. And guess what, y'all? They have enough land where they can develop 6 more units on the property with no money out of pocket. And so that's how you build wealth. Dr. Joel, full-time physician, over 30 years, that's crushing it in Alabama, that's doing subject to deals, $5,000 out of pocket, buying $150,000 property, save somebody's credit because they were going in foreclosure. They were able to get a little money in their pocket to move on with their life and preserve their credit. And it's just so many stories to go on and on how you can change your life through real estate and change your trajectory with this. And it just, got rolling as well too. That's raising capital up in New Jersey with some of his partners there that he works with. And it goes on and on. And the thing is that, knowing what you know now, hopefully you can see yourself with taking this information on how you can add real estate to what you're doing already for your retirement portfolio. Even I'm saying, even if you just take one component of, maybe you need to just focus on diversification with your stocks. Maybe you need to just get a single family, a multifamily, but it's something that hopefully you walk away with that you can implement. And for those that want help or assistance to get there, that I put something together to kind of help on bringing the financial plan together, but then also giving you the resources that you need on how you can diversify real estate. So my mentor was telling me, like, hey, like some people, man, you got to work one-on-one. They want you to work one-on-one. They're near retirement. They got money just sitting to the side, but they don't know how to get started, and they know they got to get there fast. And so this is something I recently added with clients, where we go through, we sit down, we get an assessment of your risk profile, what it is that you're looking to achieve, the market where you want to buy, and guess what? We go to work. And we set up the team, and we go through, we find the deals, we go through, do the underwriting, and we help with the asset management piece with that. And so that's something we got to have a one-on-one conversation if somebody's interested in this and what that looks like before anybody goes through this. So that's an option that's out there. So I want to make sure we put that out there. But for today, I want to talk about the retirement plan bundle, where getting you set up with your professional retirement plan. So going through expert guidance on how to navigate all these complexities when we talk about insurance, your income, your assets, your expenses, your liabilities, your risk profile, your long-term retirement plans, but going through and helping to create a tailored strategy on how you can bring real estate into everything else that you already have going on, and understanding what that looks like 5, 10, 20, 30 years in the future with that. But going through and putting that plan together, but at the same time, being able to give you the real estate blueprint. And so sharing my system with the fine finance, fixed finish piece, but then also, for those that want to be more hands-on, those materials that you need for the marketing, the outreach, how we negotiate, how we work with realtors to set them up to bring us deals, to be on their short list, all of that on the real estate front as well. But then also the quarterly expert workshops. I talk about the impact masterminds have had in my life, and bringing my circle to you guys that are serious about it. But now where we have quarterly accredited investor training on how to invest in alternative investments, but then also estate planning, wealth management, with the financial advisor on that side of it, where you're making really good decisions on that to understand what's going on in the industry, what laws are being changed, what opportunities are out there, what questions do you have where you can ask an expert in a safe forum. Self-directed IRAs, we talked about Chandria Poole, how she's crushing with self-directed IRAs, just how you can leverage those opportunities to bring in an expert. We partner with Advance IRA, but I have clients that invest in some of our deals that work with Equity Trust, and there's a couple other big names out there. And CPA, you got to have your CPA on how you can leverage different real estate tax strategies. And so that's one of the things that we bring these experts in quarterly to start having those discussions to help you get to the next level. So all that, with the Real Estate Accelerator, the workshops, and retirement plan creation, it's $10,000. It's $10,000 to put all that together to give you that blueprint that you can execute towards a retirement, and everything that you need for the resources to be successful. But for those that's still here today, that came in, I wanted to give you guys a bonus for the ones that's really looking to go and move forward, that the unlimited deal debt support. So as you're going through and you're learning, you're trying to make offers, how cool would it be to be able to give somebody your underwriting, to share the deal with, to get live feedback on whether or not it's a good deal, to make sure that you did the math right, that you didn't underestimate something, or you didn't make the wrong assumption before you make your offer. And so that's what we have with the unlimited deal debt support, and the opportunity to partner in the community with myself with some of my deals, but then also with people that you make in the relationships that you build within the community to invest in deals as well. But then also access to the document library. When we talked about that real estate deal and we put that joint venture together, the legal paperwork costs $5,000 by itself for the syndication, to put that together, to have the operating agreement, the private placement memorandum, the subscription agreement. So when you're going through and putting the LLC together, instead of going from scratch and paying It's now it's probably $7,000-$10,000 to have the paperwork put together. Now you're looking at way less than that, a couple thousand max to take a template, and now your attorney is just reviewing documentation versus creating documentation. And so those hours and the impact is a lot less. But all the checklists, templates, calculators, worksheets, marketing materials, whatever you need with having all that, like the different letters of intent to make offers as well. So all that together, then also I'm going to give you guys that came in today our multifamily mastery program. So it's everything, find, fix, finish finance framework for multifamily, everything from beginning to end to go through with the due diligence support, and where you're not going through that. We're actually right there as you're going through and evaluating properties. You have people to reach back with myself and my team. And once you close with the asset management, how to interview, set up your property management to make sure you're set up for success from the beginning. And so, this is one here that, Leslie just been crushing it, but just talked about the mentorship and how REI Genius and our community and the coaches with Coach Tanessa and how she's been able to benefit and give her the blueprint to build wealth. And Raymond as well. Raymond's in one of my military-centric real estate mastermind groups, and just the things that we're able to bounce off ideas and just help give people the strategy they need to execute when it's time to go. So all that, as bonuses today, as well as the creative finance. We talked about Henry raising 90,000, rolling, with 50K that he's raised for real estate deals, but giving you everything that you need to make the deals and the connections that you need from the networking strategies, but then also the pitch decks, how do you present a deal in a way where you answer all the questions before somebody can even ask them, and going through and give you, those tools and resources that you need to raise money and go through that process. And so that's been really cool. And that's something that we recently added on. I got DK. He's awesome and really going through, but you kind of talk about his experience with the value that he's gotten, but just the nuggets and information to help him optimize things with his content and social media, reaching the people that need his help and that need the opportunities, but being able to give him a focused plan that he's got to show up with all this. You got to show up and take action, but being able to meet him where he's at and take him to the next level with everything that we're doing. And that's what it's all about, is going through the next level and you being able to accomplish your goals. And then lastly, this fifth bonus that I want to throw in there is the live weekly accountability, where we're in there each week. We're going through, we're chopping up deals, we're chopping up underwriting, we're learning, we're going through, and because I'm a true believer that iron sharpens iron, that we're going through and continue to get together on a weekly basis where you're not waiting multiple weeks to ask a question or, understand, is this a right decision? And being able to help you kind of evolve your skills and build your team to take action today and execute everything that you're doing. And I think lastly, with the last bonus, is access to myself. My 19 years experience, I have time blocked out on my calendar for 15 minutes here and there, for across a couple of hours, multiple times a week. So I'm always within reach when you need me. And my clients, they have my cell phone number. That I'm always there. Once I check out, usually around 4:30 in the evenings, and then once I retire, oh man, and get 8 hours back every day, it's going to be even more. But really focus on the mentorship, and that when you need me, I'm there for you with answering those questions and sitting down up front. With having those couple of hours up front to set that financial plan, walk through, and build that plan. And then now the implementation and how we help you focus and bring real estate into all that. And you can go on the website and just check out more and more of the reviews there to come in. So all that, when you start looking at the bundles with everything in there, with the deal desk support, the document library, the multifamily mastery program, raising capital, it's like, okay, to do a $500,000 deal, what to get the information on how to do that, and you can do that once a year or every other year. It's hard to put a price tag on a lot of these things with just what you're able to do and level up with it, with the value and bring it all together. But the thing that I wanted to do for those that took action, that came out tonight, and over the course of the next couple of days, today, tomorrow, that if you're serious about it, you're committed to do it, you're not paying $10,000, that it's $39.97 to come in on a 6-month journey. We're going through and getting your personal retirement plan put together for you. Sitting down, we going through, filling you out, making sure we're communicating, going through, making sure that we take everything into account and giving you feedback on the changes where you need to make, whether you're underinsured, whether you need to look at increasing income, increasing your saving rate, looking at making sure that you have a disability. If something happens to you, how does that impact your family? Making sure that you have all those things buttoned up, have an effective tax strategy, and estate planning as well too. And then all of the bonuses for coming out today, you guys get an opportunity to take care of all of that added in to the upfront financial plan. But now everything you need from a real estate perspective, a mastermind perspective, to being around the right people to help you get to the next level, that you guys have access to that today. So if you're looking to sign up, you can do the QR code here over the next couple of days. Then also, maybe you got some questions. I'm gonna stay on and answer some questions today, but then also feel free to book a consultation next week between myself, Coach Jessica. Would love to have a conversation about your specific situation. But then also I forgot laid out a couple different options where you got the one-time payment there, but then if you want to do over 2 or 3 months, that you have that option as well too. That I just wanted to lay out for those that's ready to go and do that. So with that being said, this has been good. Any questions out there? I know there was a lot of talking on my end, but what questions do we have out there, Faye?
We got one question from Hannah.
Okay.
How does Dr. find those deals? And I think Dr. Joe has responded to it.
Oh, okay. No, great. Dr. Joe definitely has the marketing in those different ways. So it depends. It depends. Every deal is different. I have strategies where I work directly with real estate agents to bring me deals, as well as going direct to owners with marketing as well too. And and that looks like so many different things, that you can have broad marketing or you can be tactical marketing. You can drive for dollars. You can go and get data directly from the courthouse, or a lot of times they may have it online. And you look at pre-foreclosures, tax deed sales, code violations, tired landlords, where you look at evictions and things like that we target those individuals. And and just properties that's on the MLS that have been on there for 30, 60, 90 days, where the owner may be motivated, as well as just the agents bring us pocket listings, things that hadn't come on the MLS. So we kind of look across all those different ways. But I'll tell you, the goal is you want to find 1 or 2 niches to focus on and really show up and market and do those things consistently is what's going to work. That you can make money and find deals doing all those different things, but you don't want to spread yourself too thin. So I would say pick 1 or 2 that kind of aligns with you and your time that you have and the resources you have for marketing to make that work. Great question. Any other questions? And I would say too, definitely, on our Google review, I think we're sending an email out, but if this has been beneficial, I would love to get feedback on like how I can improve. If it's been, if you got some value from it, definitely share what worked. If it was something that you like, hey, it'd have been cool if you talked about this, let me know. I really appreciate the feedback from myself and my team, where we can continue to make this a value add for you all as we go forward. And you guys know how to find us. And with that, have a blessed rest of the day. I appreciate you spending your hard-earned time with me this morning. And for those that's ready to go, we're going to onboard you next week. So what that looks like. So we'll onboard you next week. We'll set aside a time where we can get together for an hour to kind of go through, and you'll fill out the questionnaire online with the software, upload your information, set up your account, password, and everything. And then we'll go through, have an initial hour assessment, kind of go through with you, your spouse, or if it's just you as a single individual, looking at your some recommendations based off of what the data and information that you put in, and kind of understand your goals and put that plan together on the real estate side as well too, where you have a holistic view. And then we're going to start marching to see what that looks like in regards to setting that schedule, those habits, those weekly actions that you need to start doing to kind of bolster what your retirement plan looks like today, and how you can integrate real estate into that. So yep. So if you guys have any questions or anything, follow up with me, let me know. And yeah, I'll turn it back over to you, Faye.
Yeah, I just wanted to do a